Hi everyone. As you might remember from last year, we usually hold module options fairs to introduce our students to the options they have available in the next year of study. For obvious reasons, we can't do it this year, so I've asked my colleagues to record short presentations explaining what modules they'll be teaching for third year students in 2020-2021. While we can never run all of our options because of staffing issues, we do always try to make sure that we offer you a range of choices. That's why you can pick modules focusing on different geographical areas. There are modules focusing on British history, European history, African history, history of Asia and the United States. At the same time, we offer you modules focusing on different periods. You can study early modern history, you can study 19th century history, as well as very contemporary 20th century history topics. Some of the files they've sent me are MP4 files, some of them are PowerPoint presentations, which you have to open and then click on the little um, speaker icon to listen to the voiceover they recorded. Now, you all know that in the third year of study, you will be writing your dissertations, and I know many of you have already started to think about potential dissertation topics. A dissertation, as a reminder, is a double-weighted module worth 40 credits, so double the usual amount. It runs across the year with submission deadlines sometime in late April. And the dissertation is an independent research project where you'll be really pursuing a topic that you find interesting, close to your heart, and it will be a truly independent piece of research. You'll be working with lots of primary sources. The dissertation has to be based on primary sources. Apart from the dissertation, you will select two modules in the autumn and two modules in the spring. And on the slide right now, you can see what options are available to you next year in your third year of study. Just like last year, you will receive a link and you will be asked to rank the modules in order of preference. So don't just select the modules which you want to take, but also pick some safety choices. If a module is undersubscribed, we might not be able to run it. I hope that doesn't happen, and it doesn't happen all too often, but it's better to be on the safe side. So please rank all the modules available in order of preference once you receive that link. The link should be emailed to you at some point within the next few days. If you have any questions, of course, you can contact me by email and we can arrange chats over the phone or over Skype. So I hope you're all keeping healthy. And yeah, please do get in touch if you have any questions either about choosing your modules for next year or anything else that's affecting your study at the moment. See you soon, I hope.
Henry VIII is the king we all like to think we know. But I like to suggest that when you think of Henry VIII, what you probably think of is this picture. And that you attach to this picture all sorts of values, none of them particularly positive. But of course, the truth of the matter is more complex than this. In this module, we explore why Henry went from golden Renaissance prince to paranoid, obese, and ruthless monarch. We look at his divorce crisis. We look at the great characters of the age: Thomas Cromwell, Anne Boleyn, Thomas Wolsey, among others, and their demise. We look at Henry VIII's Reformation, the dissolution of the monasteries, Henry's magnificence, and his possible tyranny. And we consider his afterlives, the way he's been posthumously represented on screen, stage, and page. We explore the nature of politics in an age of personal monarchy. And above all, we ask, did Henry VIII become a tyrant? To do this, we grapple with 16th century texts, ambassadors' accounts, letters, chronicles. We look at portraits and architecture. Assessment for this module is through one 4,000-word coursework essay written at the end of the semester. But to get there, every week we look at essential academic skills together in the seminars, and students are asked to write one formative essay of 2,000 words midway through the semester on which you'll receive one-to-one personal feedback from me, so that when you write that coursework essay, it's absolutely storming. So I hope that you'll join me as we consider this complex and contradictory man who continues to horrify and fascinate us in equal measure.
Hi, I'm Ted Valance. I'm introducing my third year module, Radicalism in the English Revolution, 1642 to 1653. This is a module which looks at a period of unprecedented change in English history. It's the first time in our history that arguments have been made for mass democracy, as ordinary soldiers of the parliamentarian army debated their political rights at the Putney debates of 1647. It's the first time in our history that the idea of a written constitution was talked about, debated seriously, and finally implemented with the establishment of the Cromwellian Protectorate in 1653. It's also the first time in our history and the first time in European history that a reigning monarch was tried and executed by his own people. Charles I beheaded outside his banqueting house in January of 1649. So this is a period of civil war, of revolution, of England moving from its centuries of monarchy to a republic. It's also a period of great social and cultural change as well. A period in which ordinary people, for the first time, can really be heard expressing their religious and political views, and in which traditional beliefs around gender difference, around morality, were also coming under a great deal of strain challenge. So it's a period of intense intellectual ferment and social and cultural upheaval. Now, to explore this very rich period in our history, we'll use a number of learning approaches, including going to visit some of the key sites of this period. We'll take a field trip to Putney to look at St Mary's Church, the site of the Putney debates, this place where these ordinary soldiers were talking about the idea of mass democracy for the first time, and we'll also look at the site of Charles I's execution, the banqueting house in Whitehall, and other sites around Whitehall related to his trial. In terms of the assessments for this module, there are a couple of assessments. One is a book or a film review. The film review is very popular with students, and it gives you an opportunity to explore different sorts of representations of the period, including things like the infamous witch trials conducted by the so-called Witchfinder General Matthew Hopkins, as portrayed in the 1968 film The Witchfinder General. And there's also then, for the main assessment, a module essay in which you will explore some of the key themes, also integrating the analysis of primary sources into that essay. So that's the module, covering, I think, the richest and most exciting period in English history, and I hope you're interested in taking it. Thank you.
Is Ian Johnson White. I hope that you're all staying healthy and getting on okay during this pandemic. I am speaking today to present the course The Limitation Game, Intelligence in International Perspective, 1899 to 1941. In this module, we'll consider the development of intelligence and intelligence agencies as an instrument in international relations and domestic security for the leading powers in the first half of the 20th century. During this period, labelled by Hobsbawm as the Age of Extremes, intelligence was transformed from a crude and poorly understood practice to a vast centralised government function that affected international relations and the lives of all citizens. The manner of its growth was closely tied to the ideologies, technologies, and wars of the period, the development of which are central aspects of this module. Intelligence existed mainly in three areas in this time: military, for things like strategic deception and surprise attacks; diplomacy, in other words spying, espionage and counter-espionage like James Bond; and domestic security, for instance the Nazi and Soviet police states. We'll be looking at the theory and nature behind intelligence work first, before considering the impact it had in the major events of the first half of the 20th century, particularly the two world wars. Why the limitation game? Well, it's called this because intelligence was limited and it was limiting. It was limited in that it proved inadequate to prevent the two largest wars in history. We'll be looking at why that was the case. And it was limiting in that it was used to limit the freedom of the individual in communist, fascist, and democratic societies. We'll consider what freedoms were given up in the name of intelligence and how similar debates on personal freedoms affect us today. These are the major questions we'll be answering on our course, covering how intelligence developed, how it differed depending on the nature of government using that intelligence, and its impact on international relations. To do so, we'll be engaging with a lot of primary sources. What did the reports of MI5 and MI6 have to say about Hitler before the Second World War, and in what ways did these agencies differ in their opinions? What do we know about how Lenin and Stalin's police states worked? We'll be looking at the relevant documents to find out. I hope to see you on the course. Thanks.